Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our Big Brother 22 All-Stars reaction for tonight's eviction episode. Here is how things are going to work. We're going to talk through the eviction, everything we saw tonight. I'm going to rant about something that we didn't see in this episode that I'm really angry about. And we will be back later to discuss the head of household competition, who won, what it means, provided that they're not on that wall for like a million hours or anything like that.
Yeah, if they're on there till 1 a.m, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
But hopefully, wall comps, we've seen them before. They're usually maybe a couple hours max, but sometimes a tiny bit longer. But we'll have updates as it goes along. I think it'll depend on how much production just wants to really torture them and like hang them on like that or whatever.
Yep.
But we'll get into it. Before we do, though, if you guys like this video, give us a like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and support us further by checking those links in the description to the store and also our Patreon. Thank you to everyone who has signed up over there.
Can I just say how disappointed I am that they didn't show Bailey doing her 500 laps with the broken pedal? I really wanted to see that on the show so bad.
Come on, production. I understand there were some important things that you needed to put into this episode, and I get that. But did we not have a minute somewhere within here where we could have had that? Because that to me was a much more heroic moment for Bailey than even necessarily getting as many questions from Julie. Like, there are ones in there that I'm glad Julie addressed, but I just wish there was a tiny bit of time in there, because it was awesome watching Bailey do that. I could do maybe like 50 laps, not 500.
I couldn't even do 5. She's a champ.
That was, for those who aren't aware, that was the punishment that Bailey received from the past Power Veto competition. So that is a bummer, but I think as far as an eviction goes, I think Bailey can look back at this episode and feel pretty good, really. I think that the show, it captured a lot of the Christmas fight and the nonsense and all of that fairly accurately with Christmas behavior, how she acted, how Bailey and Davon sort of took on that conflict.
Yeah, I feel like they showed it pretty accurately. I wasn't sure where they were going to kind of go with it after the last episode with Tyler, where they edited it together in a completely different story than what happened on the live feed. So to see the fight kind of unravel the way it did, where, for me watching this, Christmas was in the wrong in this. She handled it really poorly. I'm really glad that they kept in the part where Christmas felt that she needed to calm herself down because she was getting out of control. Christmas was getting out of control. Yeah. And so I was glad to see all of that was left in the way that it should have been.
And I'm also glad that they did include Bailey and Davon talking about how if they acted like Christmas had acted, that everyone would start throwing around all these adjectives and, the public would view it and all these sort of misconceptions and just various nonsense that gets perpetuated out there. And I'm glad they kept that in. I'm glad that it sort of showed not just Christmas in that argument, but also there's some things that I didn't even catch. And I'm not sure if they were on the feeds or not. They may have been. Unfortunately, we do not see every single second 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I think it's really unfortunate and really crappy that Bailey and Davon can't react in any way that they want to react. They should have been even more pissed than they were able to be, because that situation was really bad. And it felt like, we had Davon saying she felt like she was getting provoked, and she was. And, she's expected to act a certain way, but Christmas is allowed to point her finger in Bailey's face and clap at people. And they didn't show it on the show, but she also swore at her. Like, I don't know.
They did also show her sort of snap at Kevin, which is something that was a little bit of a little bit of an extra wrinkle that was thrown into all of this.
Yeah, and I mean, I get what Kevin was saying, where he's just kind of like, maybe just take a minute and go upstairs. Yeah. I can sit where I want when I would like. I was just like, oh my goodness, why? Why would you want to sit in the kitchen?
Yeah, I will say this though, Kevin. Don't tell someone when they're mad to go to their room. It's probably not going to go over well.
No, probably not, but I feel like it was a good intention
Yes.
to try to take some of this
Yeah.
out of it. But Christmas reaction, I sit where I want when I feel like it. I wasn't too surprised.
No, and
She was too heated to take it.
yeah, and I know a couple of days have passed since this had transpired, and originally, there were plans that maybe Bailey or Davon was going to deliver some epic speech, trashing Christmas for some of the stuff that she's doing in the house and exposing parts of her game, but since that time, everyone has had conversations. Christmas has tried to make amends. I mean, we can always argue about whether it's genuine or not genuine, but it's not really our place to fully say because we don't know her intent, but ultimately, they both go a different route, and I think they both had very good speeches. Davon spoke a lot to real-life important issues. Bailey spoke a lot about her relationship with Davon, and I think they both had said very, very human, very nice moments before Bailey left the game.
I loved these speeches, and normally I love a speech right before the votes that's more about trying to sway people's votes, but in these types of situations where you already know where the votes are going to land, to use your voice and your actual speech to say something more than just, and happy birthday, whoever, these were great speeches.
Yeah,
they used their time.
Yeah, and you guys know me. You know that I love mess. You know that I love, the equivalent of the Kaser speech, but it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't really have done anything. And so I'm glad Davon used her time for, important things that are beyond a silly game, like Big Brother.
Me too.
And even the interview with Julie, nothing struck me as altogether, surprising about all of this. I'm just glad Julie didn't do the last couple times that she's just been and Memphis started the alliance, and she's making out Memphis.
Well, she also said something weird in this, and it was going on to the tradition of every week Julie saying something kind of weird. She said that Davon and Bailey are oh, you guys are gonna be like Thelma and Louise. Did those two drive off a cliff and die or something? I haven't seen Thelma and Louise, so that's my understanding of that movie. Sorry if I'm spoiling it for everyone, but I was just what are you saying, Julie?
One other thing
that
here.
They're friends, yes, but those two, I felt like Thelma and Louise, I think they drove off a cliff.
Well, I also think Thelma and Louise is 30 years old. Let's not try to reference something, Julie, that's from the early 90s, and you don't even know that these people have even seen Thelma and Louise, let alone anything else.
I'm 45 and I haven't seen Thelma and Louise. I just know how it ends, and I think Brad Pitt's in it.
Julie, she's had some how do you do fellow kids moments where she's trying to relate, and she's maybe pick something from the last 10 years, Julie.
Yep.
I think that's all we're asking here. She also relayed to everyone, of course, the jury is here. We've made it to the jury phase of the game, which I will say this about Christmas's goodbye message. It would have been sort of hilarious if she said that in the message, and then there was a battle back and Bailey got back into the game.
Yeah, it would have been. I actually kind of thought that Christmas's message was going to be a little more, I don't know, snarky, I guess, because she's been kind of snarky all week long. But they have squashed some of it to whatever game degree.
Well, I think she's probably worried about, I'm guessing, her reputation. I know David...
And a possible battle back.
Yeah, and a possible battle back. And I have a hard time remembering when exactly these messages are recorded. I think it varies. I think David at one point warned her about the optics of what she did with their nominations. I don't know if that played a role in any of it, but they were fairly straightforward goodbye messages other than Christmas giving the game away when there could have still been a battle back.
Yeah, that was... Well, they wouldn't have shown that.
Come on, guys. You know you would have wanted to give us that at that particular moment. But the one thing I find the most interesting about the Julie and Bailey conversation is the discussion about Tyler, and that apparently Bailey and Tyler sat down and had something in the hours before we got to see the episode, and the feeds actually cut down a little bit earlier than I kind of expected. I don't know if Tyler tipped off production or Bailey asked for something, because the reality here that they didn't show on the show is that Tyler seemingly did want to quit the game, but he didn't speak to producers about his intentions before he spoke to Bailey and Davon, and production was like, no, you can't quit the game this way. You're going to lose your stipend. You're going to lose all your money. You may get other benefits from CBS taken away. And I think that really played a role in Tyler ultimately not deciding to go through with this on a bigger level than he did.
Yes, I think it absolutely did. I think that Tyler probably did feel that he wanted to leave the game. He had been talking about it for weeks, and I don't think it was only that he wanted to put himself out there for a bigger cause for Bailey and Davon. It had been a bunch of things that were building to this point that he finally was like, okay, you know what? Enough is enough. I've gotten to where I am.
I hope that came up in that conversation. I hope that
so.
Tyler and Bailey are really good and that they're okay.
I believe her. She tells me that she's leaving it in the game.
Yeah.
And I believe she's leaving it in the game. And I think that the two of them are probably tired of carrying this around on both of their shoulders.
Yeah.
This sort of back and forth feud for all these seasons and all this time on the outside world. And I think they just want it to be done.
I understand that, Bailey. You've got a good life. You've got swaggy. You know, you guys can just go back and relax and try to enjoy the rest of the summer. The thing I wish had come out, because I am so sick of the word untouchable now, like nobody's business. I just wish somebody had said, you know what? This whole untouchable conversation, it's all garbage. It doesn't mean anything. It never meant anything.
The other thing I found kind of interesting in this interview, and if you guys have been watching us a while, then you know that I don't really keep up with house guests once they've left the house. It's not a thing I normally do unless they're doing something I'm really interested in, like Dan Giesling has his Twitch stream and I love video games, so you know I like to watch that. But I didn't realize that Bailey and Swaggy were actually already married. I thought they were on their way to getting married, but Julie said they got married 4 months ago.
I have a hard...
I don't know if Julie's like wrong or like I just don't keep up on the BB gossip here or what everybody's lives are like, but...
Maybe it's a situation where they're having like a more formal wedding celebration.
Yeah, maybe.
And something like that. Like
that happens all the time.
Yeah, this is just another great example of like how we're so locked in on the game sometimes. You know, we have a hard time following a lot of the stuff outside of the game. But I think this episode, it was a more accurate, I think, portrayal of some things going on in the house. Granted, I think we've totally lost a lot of the nuance about what's going to happen depending on who wins the next HOH.
Yeah, it's true.
I think I will tell you this now. I was about 95% sure that Memphis was going to be off that platform before the show even ended.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they were even kind of making jokes about, you know, well, we'll see you later, Memphis. He's not going to be able to do this for very long.
If I was Memphis, and I know you can't do this if you're Memphis because it will look really bad and you will go on the block, I would have looked at looked at this thing behind me and been like, well, see you later, guys. I would have just fallen right off at the start.
No, he doesn't need to throw his back out for a competition he cannot win.
No, he's absolutely not going to win this. And without even seeing it play out yet, we'll get into it and catch up when we're off this video. I mean, it's gonna favor the smaller people more than likely.
It's always interesting sort of seeing everybody up on the wall where I kind of get a better sense of how small some people are. Like seeing Nicole up on that wall, I was like, man, I didn't realize just how tiny she is until I saw her on the wall. I know she's small, but I was like, wow, she is small. Like, I'm small. I'm really small. She is tiny.
Nicole's already up there, like, trying to, like, downplay things. Like, I think I heard her say like, how hard it was or something. It's like, Nicole, you're going to do well in this competition.
Absolutely. She was already, like, feeling out the different ways of how this was going to benefit her. I can absolutely see this as a competition that she's going to win. Someone like her, someone like Danny, someone like Ian. Like, this is where it's kind of going. Possibly Davon. She was the only person up there that had her eyes closed, that was just concentrating on what she needed to concentrate on. And that is what you need with this particular competition. You have to concentrate.
Yeah, you have to concentrate. You have to ignore everything. You got to have a good plan for how to, like, take care of your body as you're going and just sort of tune out a lot of the different stuff. But I'm grateful that we have one of these. I hope it's really on the feeds. I'm kind of worried because this is a very weird season. They promised us feeds. Hopefully they're going on at the time we're recording this.
Yeah.
We'll be back later, though. Like I said, we will talk all about what we see with that HOH competition, where things could go, but we wanted to give some thoughts on the episode tonight to give Bailey her proper due. I really enjoyed watching her on the feeds. I loved her relationship with Enzo, in addition to the one with Avon, and I'm going to miss those conversations.
I'm going to miss her on the show as well. I was really hoping for a magic reset button to happen here and to just keep her and Avon, and it didn't end up happening. But no, I really enjoyed watching her this season. I'm bummed she's gone.
I know, and that's been the case all season. We've watched a lot of people who we like who just have not played perfect games by any means, and it's just been a big steamrolling. But we'll see where things go. What did you think about tonight's episode? Who do you want to see win HOH? Maybe everybody's fallen off already, and it's a silly question. I doubt it, though. We're only 15 minutes in, but let us know.
People hold out for these.
If you do like this video, give us a like, subscribe, support us further. Check those links to the store, our Patreon, and we'll see you here next time.